So the movie, Blade Runner...
Has a story ever called out to you, like something in your soul pulls you towards it? For the longest time, that was Blade Runner for me, but I refused to watch it until I read the book that it was based on, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. I desperately wanted to read this book, but for reasons unknown, it was pretty difficult to find. So my life became an endless quest to avoid Blade Runner spoilers while hunting down a copy of its source material. As you can see, finally, after a lifetime of searching, I managed to find one. In 2017. Tell me about a book that you are super excited to read. I have chosen Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. I have not read this yet, which makes me seem really bad because I keep saying that I like science fiction, but I have not read it. And I've owned this copy since December last year, and I still haven't gotten around to reading it, but it's on my to-be-read like right now, so as soon as I get the chance, I'm going to tackle this, and I think I'm going to enjoy it a lot. And then just didn't read it for 6 years. Because reasons. But then January 2023 arrived and I pledged to only read science fiction, starting with, you guessed it, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. So last week I finally achieved my dream of reading this book and finally achieved my goal of watching Blade Runner, and now I have all the words. In fact, I have so many words that I have enlisted the biggest science fiction nerd I know to help me make this video. I'd like to welcome Boyfriend.
Scooch. Scooch.
Yay.
Yes, me.
Boyfriend.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Camera. First
Hi.
time. Nerves. No. Yes. Hi. How are you?
I'm great.
Fantastic.
How are you?
Fine.
So this is how this is going to work. This isn't a battle and it's not a debate either. What we're going to do is add our perspectives as the resident bookworm and the resident cinema buff, discuss the book, discuss the movie, discuss their strengths and shortcomings, if any, and then leave you to decide what to make of it. So, let's get started! I have to disclaim that for both the book and the movie, it would be impossible to discuss them without spoiling them. So proceed at your own risk, because we're going to ruin the ending of both. The Android's Dream of Electric Sheep is, at its heart and soul, a story about sentience and what counts as life. Set in 1992 originally, the year I was born by the way, and 2021 in later printings, the world has been decimated by nuclear war. In an effort to preserve what's left of humanity, most humans abandon Earth. The ones that do are awarded androids that they can use as servants. But some of the androids don't want to be slaves, so they revolt, kill some humans, and flee to hide on Earth. The problem is, they're not allowed on Earth, so if they're detected, bounty hunters will catch and retire them. Rick Deckard, our main character, is one such bounty hunter who dreams of, almost obsesses over the idea of owning a live animal. See, World War Terminus, the nuclear war that caused all the shit in the first place, has wiped out most animal species on the planet. So owning a pet is, number one, a moral obligation, and number two, it's seen as a status symbol. But Rick, a mere bounty hunter, is quite underpaid and can't afford a real animal, so he keeps a life like electric sheep instead. Rick is embarrassed by his electric sheep, and throughout the book it is made abundantly clear that he wants a pet not because most of the animals are gone and it's his duty to have one, but rather because his self-worth rests on the idea of owning a pet, and also the neighbors will talk if they ever find out that his sheep isn't real. When 6 of the latest androids, Nexus 6 models, escape Mars and flee to Earth, Rick is the bounty hunter assigned to hunt and retire them. If he does so successfully, he'll earn enough money to buy an actual animal, so he starts obsessing over the job. But there's a problem. The Nexus 6 androids are indistinguishable from humans, and nobody is really sure that Rick's usual methods of identifying androids, the Voigtkampf or empathy test, is reliable enough to identify them. Rick administers the test on a young woman named Rachel and determines that she is an android. Later on, he starts to develop a bond with her and even goes as far as to sleep with her, even though he's married, and it raises this whole question, like, did he really cheat because she's a machine? And it's like, Rick, you dirty, dirty dog, but at the same time, like, did he do anything wrong? You know, it's weird, and it's uncomfortable, and I just wanted to mention that. Anyway, Rachel, who is actually the primary antagonist of the book, just by the way, exploits the bond that they form and manipulates him into feeling empathy for her and the other escaped Nexus 6 androids. The other androids, by the way, are hiding out with a sweet and soft-hearted man who is brain damaged because of the radiation from the war. As Rick continues his mission to retire Rachel's friends, he has to force himself to ignore his emotions to finish the job, so that he can pay off a live goat that he bought on a whim. Out of spite, Rachel kills his goat. Hence, she's the main antagonist of the book, just so that you know. I feel like a lot of people who watched the movie and didn't read the book don't know that she's terrible, awful in the book.
We don't.
Like, she's the worst.
No, we have no idea. She doesn't even...
I didn't even know that she was the main antagonist, but I read the book first, of course. But yeah. Just so that you know, she's terrible, awful, disgusting, and she kills his goat and crushes his hopes and dreams, and we don't like Rachel. The book ends with Rick close to losing his mind, resigning himself to a cup of coffee and some sleep, while his wife orders maintenance for their new electric animal. This book is brilliant. It's a short but immensely complex psychological roller coaster that will leave you questioning everything from who to root for, to what is real, to whether or not you are an android and you just don't know. I'm not exaggerating, okay? You will develop paranoia like you have never experienced it before, and you won't know what to think or what to believe or how to feel. Every page bamboozles you. I'm not lying. It's something else. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep is excellent and bittersweet, and it definitely, absolutely, 100% gets a 10 out of 10 from me. But enough about that, on to the movie.
Blade Runner! So the film, Blade Runner, starts in a dystopian Los Angeles in the year 2019, which is optimistically advanced. Now, similar to the book, this thing, it's got paper, humans have decided to just bugger off. They have ruined the planet, and they have an incentive to leave. They're incentivizing people to leave. So their incentive is, you leave, you go to the off-world colonies, you get your very own Nexus 6 replicant. This doesn't seem like much of a perk, considering the reason they are banned on Earth. A combat team mutinied and just killed a whole bunch of people. So they're not welcome on Earth. So basically, to deal with any replicants that were on Earth, they started the Blade Runners, who are just bounty hunters that are trained to retire these replicants. And that leads us to he would be the main character. Yeah, that leads us to Rick Deckard, one of the last Blade Runners on Earth. And he's pulled out of retirement to hunt for replicants that are running around in LA.
Fun fact, the words Blade Runner do not feature in the book at all.
The catch is that he has to do this quietly so as to not alert the human population remaining on Earth that Nexus 6 replicants actually made it back. Before starting his investigation, he is told to go to the Tyrell Corporation to test a new Nexus replicant. He gets to the Tyrell Corporation, and instead of testing a replicant, they say, "No, I want to see a negative. Test this lady." He tests her, and figures out that she is a replicant. It just took a lot more questions than it normally would. The catch with this one, and why it took so long, is that she is completely unaware that she is a skin job. Deckard goes home, and lo and behold, here's Rachel questioning, what were the test results? She was not told. She still does not know, so Deckard tells her. We cut to Leon and Roy, two of our escaped replicants. They're busy looking for answers because they know they were built like iPhones with planned obsolescence. This obsolescence was a failsafe that basically gave them a 4-year lifespan, so that's it, tick, off switch. They are led to JF Sebastian, a genetic engineer and toy maker. He makes friends. Then we cut back to Deckard, whose investigation led him to the first replicant, which he successfully retires. Unfortunately for him, Leon, one of the other replicants, saw it and tries to kill him. Rachel just shows up out of nowhere and blasts a hole in his head. Clearly exhausted from almost dying, goes back to his home with Rachel. They do their little canoodle thing, which was the weirdest scene in the movie.
I mustn't laugh, it's very rapey.
It's so weird.
But again, like in the book when he cheats on his wife, did he really cheat? Like, yeah, it's super rapey, but she's a machine, so like it's uncomfortable.
She's weird. Questioning, are my emotions real? He's like, shut up, woman, your emotions are real. Let's have sex. And now we shift on to Pris, who's another replicant, now pretending to be homeless so she can manipulate J.F. Sebastian into letting her into the house. The next morning, Roy just rocks up uninvited, and they manage to convince J.F. Sebastian to take them to the Tyrell Corporation to meet with Tyrell so that Roy can maybe look for a systems update to keep him ticking a little bit longer. Unfortunately for him, it's baked into his code, so there's absolutely nothing that can be done. So, in a fit of rage, he kills Tyrell, squishes his head like a grape, and then goes after Sebastian. The police reports on the radio lead Deckard to J.F. Sebastian's home, where Pris and Roy are hiding out. Pris tries the whole ambush, but the crazy flip-floppy thing didn't really work, so she kind of gets blasted. Roy comes back in, clearly, I don't know what, he went out to get groceries or some shit, and comes back, and Pris has been blasted, so he's pissed off with Rick. So, Roy cheats at hide-and-seek by looking while counting and taunting with nursery rhymes in a dramatic chase around this building. Basically, the most sadistic game of cat and mouse in science fiction. Where
Deckard would be the mouse.
Yeah. You know what happened? Cat get mouse, they play them to death.
He gets his ass kicked. A lot.
Ooh, he pummeled.
He gets beaten like an egg.
The chase leads through broken floorboards to a roof, with Deckard almost falling to his death, and a sudden change of heart from Roy pulling him up and saving his life, saying probably the most epic and inspiring to all emos and last words I have ever heard. These super poetic last words in the rain, and just switch off. Expired. Deckard hightails it back home to check on Rachel, hoping she's still alive. He escapes with her and rides into the sunset, which is funny because the sun is not seen once in the entire film. I can safely say that Blade Runner is one of my all-time favorite movies. It's something that'll stay with you. You'll think back on it, and every time you revisit it, you'll notice something new. It's one of the most iconic sci-fi films ever made, and with good reason. Personally, I think it's perfect, because I cannot think of a single thing I would change. It's 10 out of 10.
Back to me. So usually when it comes to the great debate between books and their film adaptations, there's usually one that is very clearly superior, or at the very least more well-loved, even if both of them are great. For example, with Harry Potter, the movies are expertly made, but most people will agree that the books are just better. The problem is that, as you just witnessed, both the book and the movie got perfect scores from us. And here's the thing, you can't actually compare them, because Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep and Blade Runner are two entirely different stories. In fact, I think that saying that Blade Runner was based on Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep isn't a stretch. It's contortionism. Here are a couple of examples. This isn't an exhaustive list, but I just want to portray to you how different these two things actually are. So, in this here book, Rick Deckard is married. His wife, Iron, is depressed. Deliberately, because in the book they have these things called mood organs, which basically attune their emotions to sort of optimize them, and his wife, Iron, firmly believes that it's unnatural to not feel any negativity, so she tunes her mood organ to depression so that she can feel depressed.
In the movie, Deckard is single as hell. There's no mention of a wife. There are photos of women on the piano, but we don't know anything. There's no mood organ mentioned at all, and Deckard is the one who's depressed.
A lot of names and character details were altered as well. For example, in the book, the corporation that manufactures the androids are called the Rosen Association.
And in the movie, it is known as the Tyrell Corporation.
In the book, his name is J.R. Isidore, and he is disabled because of the radiation. His brain damaged, like I said earlier. He's not a toy maker. He actually works in a fake vet's office. They pretend to heal animals, but what they're really doing is repairing electric sheep and the like, but discreetly.
Now in the movie, J.F. Sebastian, as we've covered, genetic engineer and toy maker. Genetic designer, that was it. Genetic designer. And toy maker. And he suffers from Methuselah syndrome, which makes him age incredibly quickly. He looks like he's in his 50s, but he's 25.
He's 25?
He's 25.
Wow. One of the simpler changes is that in the book, one of the androids is named Max Polikev.
And in the movie, they changed him to Leon Kowalski.
In the book, there's a character named Luba Luft. She is an android, also an opera singer, and she's pretty prominent. Like, they focus on her quite a bit because a lot happens while Rick is hunting her.
In the movie, the closest parallel is probably Zora, who is an exotic dancer with a fake snake that has very little importance besides, like, leading to the death of her and Leon and the canoodling.
And boobs.
And boobs.
Yeah.
Boobs, yeah, they boobs.
In the book, Pris is very, very, very different. For one, she's not insane. For another, she looks exactly like Rachel. They're pretty much the same model. She also teams up with an android named Imgard, who is married to Roy.
Things are a little different on this side. Imgard is nowhere to be seen, and Pris is the one who is the love interest for Roy Batty. And she bears pretty much no resemblance to Rachel whatsoever. They're not even from the same series. Pris is Nexus 6, and Rachel is assumed to be Nexus 7.
And like I said earlier, in the book, Rachel is not great. She is very, very, very bad, naughty android. Okay? She's terrible.
Yeah, and in the movie, she was just questioning her own existence and her emotions are real or not. That's about as far as it goes.
In the book, there is this whole plot line about a religion called Mercerism, which emphasizes empathy. It also brings into play this thing called an empathy box that the humans can use to tune into other people's emotions and share experiences with everybody else. It's kind of central to the story.
Here, no mention.
In the book, one of the only ways to tell if one is an android is to administer the Voight-Kampff test, because it tests for empathy, and as it turns out, that is something that you cannot program, and the androids just don't have empathy.
In the movie, they went slightly different with that, where because of the short lifespans, and because they're created sort of as adults, their minds can't mature. So the replicants are emotionally immature, and that's what the Voight-Kampff test is really testing for.
In this year book, Rick Deckard is a badass. He is ruthless, and he is extremely adept at his job. He gets into a sticky situation once with Max, but he manages to outsmart Max and saves himself. And throughout the rest of the book, he doesn't really get his ass handed to him. He retires the androids pretty easily.
Ooh, my poor boy Deckard. The floor gets painted with this guy's face half of the time.
In the book, while there is some sort of romantic implication when it comes to Rachel, it's not a love story between the two of them. It's more the way that she's playing with his feelings that is the focus of the story. They don't run off into the sunset with each other at all.
Whereas here, that's the ending.
The android's dream of electric sheep is very much character-driven, and there are few action scenes considering that the book is about a man hunting and killing machines.
Blade Runner, on the other hand, tells its story in a completely different way. It's very visual, very symbolic.
Oh, and it's very theatric.
Very theatric.
Yeah. We have mentioned this before, but just to reiterate, in the book, they're not called Blade Runners. They're just bounty hunters. The words Blade Runner do not feature in the book at all, and the androids are not called replicants. They're just androids, and Andes for short.
Whereas it's clearly the title of the bloody movie.
In the book, there is no tinfoil unicorn whose sole purpose is to confuse people for decades upon decades upon decades.
And most importantly, in the movie, there is absolutely no mention of an electric sheep.
Which bothers me a lot. Like, a lot, people. Let's talk about this now. The android's dream of electric sheep is almost entirely focused on Rick Deckard's determination to own a live animal. It's his sole motivation to hunt the Andes, and he is portrayed as a ruthless but also incredibly insecure man who just wants to fit into society and have a comfortable life. On top of that, the book delves really deep into the concept of empathy and who or what deserves it. I would say that the biggest question throughout the story is, what makes you human?
The movie, on the other hand, focuses a lot less on sentience and more on mortality. It's not so much a question of empathy, but more commentary on life itself.
Still, at the end of the day, both Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep and Blade Runner ask the most important question of all in both of them: what is real? But, and it's a big, huge but, my main gripe with Blade Runner is that I feel that it went out of its way to destroy the message of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which is this, to quote Graham Slight, who wrote the introduction of this book. If nothing else, he seems to be saying the fake has value. If you were an android and dreamed of electric sheep, would it make you less you? I am a huge fan of AI stories. I'd even go as far as to say that artificial intelligence is my favorite branch of science fiction. But where the book made me question absolutely everything, the film was an entertaining and visual action romance detective adventure that just happened to have AI in it. All that said, I still really enjoyed watching Blade Runner after waiting a whole entire lifetime to watch it. It was really good. And so my conclusion is this: both of these stories are brilliant, and you would do well to give both of them a chance. However, they are best enjoyed separately from each other because they are apples and oranges and cannot and should not ever be compared to each other. Read The Android's Dream of Electric Sheep if you want philosophy and a whole lot of mindfuckery. Watch Blade Runner if you want a thrill and a visual feast. So that's that. Wait, I didn't plan what I was going to say. Let me know in the comments which one you like more, Blade Runner or The Android's Dream of Electric Sheep. Have you ever read The Android's Dream of Electric Sheep? Have you ever watched Blade Runner? Do you like both of them? Do you hate both of them? I really want to know. But most importantly, which one do you prefer? Also, in the comments, let me know what you think of Boyfriend's debut on this YouTube channel.
I am not used to this.
He's really not. He's never done anything like this before.
I'm not a camera person.
He does want to start streaming on Twitch, though. Satisfactory and Final Fantasy and what, I don't know, you tell me.
I wish I could freaking stream Star Citizen, but jeez, that thing needs a CPU.
I read Ready Player One this week, and we're going to watch Ready Player One tonight. So next week, yeah, it says
okay. Yeah. Movie nights, movie nights.
So next week on this here channel, if I actually stick to my schedule for once, we'll do the same thing, but with Ready Player One versus Ready Player One book movie. And I'm gonna have a lot to say because y'all lied to me when you said that Ready Player One was a good book. Keep your eyes open for that and subscribe if you want to. That would be nice.
Or else.
One more thing. He's never read The Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, and also we watched the final cut.
The final cut.
Yeah. I still need to watch 2049. Haven't seen it yet, but I hear that it is closer to the book than the original Blade Runner was, so I'll watch it someday. I think that is all. That is what we think of Blade Runner and Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. Gonna shut up. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Auf Wiedersehen.
In BookTube, back in the day, every time a booktuber had a review or a tag or something, they would say, "Let's get started," and then I just didn't stop saying it.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But you deliberately did your valley girl.
Because that's how they'd say it. I'm not even lying.
Point in that she usually does that to annoy me.
Yay.
I'm lucky. I'm lucky. We can blooper reel. Contain yourself.
You contain yourself.
Shoo.
See, World War Terminus, the nuclear war that caused all the shit in the first place. Hey.
So cool. World War Terminus.
We should say that in the changes remember. We're gonna say, yeah.
So the film Blade Runner starts in a dystopian Los Angeles in the year 2019 in a very optimistically, futuristically way thing. So the film Blade Runner starts in a dystopian. Can you cooperate? Shush.